The moon hasn't risen over Sector 7 in 23 years, but tonight I swear I can feel it watching me. Neon shivers across cracked concrete like a heartbeat that forgot the right rhythm. Rain crawls down the inside of the dome in crooked veins, and the whole district smells like rust and old electricity. Sector 7 doesn't sleep. It stalls, coughs, and pretends not to notice you while it picks your pockets. I keep my head down and my eyes up, a hunter's habit. See everything, trust nothing, leave no ripples. Names don't matter here. Currency does. Mine is a ring of black metal hanging on a chain at my throat, stamped with my ID glyph, my token. It opens doors, buys silence, and tells anyone who cares that I belong to the only faction worth believing in, myself. The job is simple on paper. Bring back Jasper Laert. Omega, last of a lineage that used to set prices on sunlight. The clans lost the city when the dome started eating more than it guarded. But some old names still purchase fear, and fear always needs delivery. I ghost through the market, past noodles steaming in cracked bowls, past augments, for sale on cloth tarps, past the music that leaks from tin speakers. A lonely saxophone thread tangles with the rain. It pulls at me, not the sound, but the wrongness of it. No one plays live out here, too risky, which means someone wants to be found. I follow the note up a stairwell choked with moss and busted exit lights. The door at the top is warped. Behind it, the city's skeleton, Observatory E-3, shut down before I was born. The dome's curve looms above, a brushed steel sky stitched with maintenance seams. The telescope lies on its side like a fallen cannon, ribs of glass catching stray neon from the city below. And the music. Hell, the music is not a sax at all but a record player, a real, spun vinyl ghost, humming something sad and stubborn from a cracked speaker. He stands beside it with his hands tucked into a threadbare coat, pale hair silvering the dark like spilled glow. He's thinner than his bounty poster, taller, and his eyes. Those are the problem. Not color so much as temperature. Moonlight, if it remembered how to burn. Jasper Laert, I say. My voice comes out gravel tied with wire. You're late for your wedding. He smiles without showing teeth. Was it today? I must have misplaced the day on the way to living. Cocky, brave, or so tired he can't tell the difference. I catalog the details the way I always do. Neck tattoo, half-finished break in the clan. Code, calluses that don't match a noble's son, breath steady, no scent of panic. Omega, yes, but not the soft kind the clans like to showcase on balconies. Something less ornamental. Something with edges. I don't get paid extra for conversation, I say, closing the distance. Let's move. You say that, he murmurs, switching off the record player with an affectionate tap. But you came all the way up here. That's a conversation of its own, a flash of motion. He sweeps the needle arm through the air. The stylus sparks against the metal railing. The room pops with static. It's a terrible weapon unless your opponent carries smart fabric and a shoulder rig calibrated to the dome's humidity index. I do. My left forearm floods with dead weight. For a breath, my fingers won't close. He runs. I like the honest ones. They either fight or flee. The dangerous ones do both. I recover and go after him, boots punching echoes into the steel catwalk. He clears a stretch of missing floor like he rehearsed this dance. I take it uglier, shoulder grazing a rusted rivet, and then we're in the annulus where the dome's curve kisses the observatory's ragged edge. City neon presses its face to the glass above, smeared by rain into ribbons. Jasper moves like he learned in narrow spaces, efficient, unfancy, using elbows and corners, not afraid to bruise. Going somewhere sweet? I call. The hunter in me likes the cadence of the chase. The man in me listens for his breath. Away, he says over his shoulder. It's a very big place when you mean it. He throws a chain of hooks at me. Literal hooks. Maintenance hardware jerked from the wall. I duck the first, catch the second, use the third to yank him off balance. He spins into my space. For a heartbeat, the only things in the universe are rain, his coat's coarse lapel under my fingers, and the clean knife line of a jaw that should never have learned to clench like that. He knees for my thigh. I hip check, take the blow to meat instead of joint, and answer with an elbow that stops a hair shy of his temple. teaching, not breaking. I hate that I notice the thrill that shivers up my spine anyway. The dome hums. The record player below scratches to a dead hush. Why the observatory? I ask, because words are feints too. I push him into the railing, forearm a bar across his chest, my weight pinning his legs. He's warm. He's shaking, but not with fear. Because it points at something that isn't the clans, he says, breath fogging the cage of my throat. Because it reminds me that the ceiling used to be a sky. Your ceiling is a cell if I do my job. And if you don't? He's testing me. He can scent I'm an alpha. He can probably map the scar under my cheekbone without looking. He'll be reading my pulse, counting heartbeats to time the next dirty trick. He is also, infuriatingly, looking at me like a person, not a tool. That's what gets under the armor. Tools make sense. People make echo. Then I don't get paid, I tell him. And I like getting paid. Everyone does, he says softly. The clan accountants like it the most. He twists. Omega flexibility, weaponized. My grip breaks for a blink. He slips down and under, heel scything for my ankle. I hop it, grab his hood, drag him back. We collide. His hands are on my forearm now, nails scraping leather, and our faces are close. Enough that I can count a constellation of faint freckles near his left eye. There's a cut on his lower lip. I put it there. I hate that I want to taste the apology. Focus. I shove him through a doorway and into a storage corridor lined with dead screens and the smell of coolant. He stumbles, catches himself on a console, pivoting to keep me in front. Clever, conserving sightlines. I'm done pretending this is only professional. I pull the filament cuffs from my belt. He sees them and laughs, bright and mean. You really think those hold me? They hold most people. I'm not most. He surges again. This time I let him. A false opening. His shoulder hits my ribs, my back hits the console. The dome's hum kicks into a higher pitch like it's enjoying the show. I ride the impact, hook my leg behind his, and we go down together. The world narrows to pressure and breath and the wet thud of hearts. I get the top. I always do. Knees bracketing his hips, one hand on his wrists, the other finding the line of his throat, not squeezing, just measuring. His pulse stamps my palm like a new currency. End of the road, I say. Road's end, he answers, and those moonburn eyes tip up to mine like they've been waiting here all night. But people choose where to stop. He's not wrong. It rankles. Close up, he smells like rain biting old metal, like something clean trapped in machinery. The tattoo at his neck is a broken ring, a clan code severed. He did that himself. My mouth is a little dry. My hands are a little steadier than they should be. What did they promise you for going back? I ask. A kinder cage? What did they promise you for bringing me? He counters. A meal ticket? The words aren't cruel, just precise. You hunt for survival. I ran for the same. The filament cuffs click. He doesn't fight them the way he fought me. That's the trick I should have noticed sooner. He resists the obvious and yields to what looks inevitable. He's playing long. He's been playing long since before he met me. That thought hits with the cold weight of the dome's shadow. Get up, I tell him. He does. Chin high, wrists bound, dignity somehow intact in a coat that would cry if it met a dry cleaner. We walk back through the observatory. The needle arm on the record player points at nothing. Rain whispers across the dome. At the threshold, he says, almost conversational, as if we were pausing at a cafe, to argue about sweeteners. You don't actually believe in the clans, do you? He looks straight into me like he already knows how this ends. And that's the moment I realize he's not asking to save his life. He's asking to change mine. The layered tower doesn't smell like a home. It smells like ownership, bleach and ozone, and the kind of air that stings your teeth. Everything here is polished steel and white gloves. No color, no warmth. Just money pretending to be morality. They make me leave my weapons at the gate. 2 guards in ceramic armor escort me through the corridors like I'm contagious. My boots echo, too loud in all this silence. The walls hum with filtered light, pale blue, the kind of glow that makes even your thoughts feel disinfected. Jasper walks ahead of me, wrists cuffed, chin up. Not defiant. Just distant. The bastard looks like he's going to a fashion shoot instead of a cell. The clerk who meets us in the delivery chamber doesn't look at Jasper at all. Only at me. Middle-aged, with the posture of someone who believes the air here costs extra. He flicks open a tablet and says, "Hunter, identification?" I drop my token on the scanner. It flashes green. The sound it makes, a perfect corporate ping, always grates on me. "You did good work," he says, not looking up. He's a dangerous piece of heritage. Heritage. Like they're talking about an antique vase. Jasper tilts his head slightly, voice soft but sharp. "Tell me, do you polish all your heirlooms with chains?" The clerk's expression doesn't move. He gestures to the guards, and they step forward. Jasper's smile is gone before the door seals behind him. Just like that, the room feels colder. The clerk slides me a small case. Matte black, clan seal engraved in silver. Payment. Enough credits to buy a new life. If I wanted one. Or to ruin an old one. He clears his throat. Transfer confirmed. Your record will show successful retrieval under contract 141B. I nod once. No handshake. You don't touch clan officials unless you want to count your fingers later. When I step back into the rain, the sky under the dome feels heavier. Neon crawls across puddles in nervous blues and reds. My reflection looks tired, older than the night. I tell myself I don't care, that I've done this 100 times before, that it doesn't matter that this one talked, that he looked me in the eye when he said, "You don't actually believe in the clans, do you?" The words hang there, as if the dome picked them up and keeps whispering them back through the static. The motel I crash in isn't much, a concrete box with flickering hollow ads and a mattress that smells like someone else's regrets. But it's quiet, and quiet is rare enough to feel like luxury. I strip off my jacket, toss the credit case on the nightstand. The black metal glints in the blue light leaking through the blinds. Payment for betrayal. Payment for order. Payment for not asking why. I wash the blood from my knuckles, but it doesn't want to come off. The water runs pink for longer than it should. When I close my eyes, I see him again. The tilt of his head, the half smile, the rain threading silver through his hair. He didn't beg, didn't plead, didn't even look scared. I've dragged half the dome's underbelly in before, and every one of them had that moment. The snap of fear, the realization of the cage, but not him. He just looked free, even when the cuffs clicked shut. I tell myself I don't care. Again. And again. It almost works. The rain grows heavier. Somewhere outside, the ad towers hum lullabies about loyalty and renewal. I turn off the lights. The room sinks into the kind of dark that makes you think too loud. Sleep comes late. Morning hits with static and headache. I roll out of bed, reach for my jacket, and freeze. The chain around my neck feels wrong. Too light. The token's gone. For a few seconds I just stand there, staring at the empty spot where my entire license, my identity, used to hang. My hand clenches automatically, as if I could summon it back. It's not just metal. It's proof that I exist inside the system, that I'm allowed to breathe under this dome. Without it, I'm nobody. Worse, I'm prey. My eyes dart to the nightstand. The black credit case still sits there, untouched. The payment's real. The theft isn't about money. I dig through my gear, my jacket, the floor. Nothing. My comlink buzzes with encrypted clan chatter. Word travels fast here. Maybe it's already too late. And then it hits me. The faint scent of rain, not from the window but from the hallway. Sharp, clean, familiar. Of course. Son of a... I stop mid-word and laugh once. Quietly. It sounds more like disbelief than humor. That silver-eyed idiot. He didn't just run. He played me. He must have slipped the token right off me before I even left the tower. Maybe while I was distracted watching him disappear behind that door. Maybe before that. Maybe during the fight. Either way, he's out, and I'm screwed. I pack in minutes. Old habit. You don't survive long as a hunter if you linger after a job. But this isn't cleanup, it's damage control. Every clan checkpoint in the sector will be flagged for my ID chip. If I show up without proof, I'm a rogue. A traitor. My reflection in the mirror grins back at me, tired and half crazy. Nobody steals from me and stays alive, I mutter. The grin widens. Nobody, except that silver-eyed idiot. For a heartbeat, I almost smile for real. Because deep down, under the anger, under the static and the hangover, and the creeping sense that I've just signed my own death warrant, I'm curious. What kind of man steals freedom twice, once from his clan, and once from the hunter sent to drag him back? The answer hums somewhere in my bones, under the pulse of the dome, and I already know what I'm going to do next. Find him. Again. Night market under the dome. 1,000 open mouths breathing neon. Stalls stacked like ribs. Tarps sweating rain. Cables drooping like vines. Smoke from skewers threads the air with pepper and sugar. Somewhere a generator hiccups, coughing sparks. You can buy anything here. Memories spooled on crystal. Spare lungs and saline. Nameless favors in black envelopes. Tonight it sells me rumors. They all point to the same ghost name. Silver. I move with the current. A shadow inside brighter shadows. Without my token, I'm officially nothing, but I've been nothing before, and nothing is slippery. I collect whispers like receipts. A pale kid with quiet hands, a laugh that sounds too clean for this district, a trader who pays in information instead of credits. Silver, silver, silver. Like moonlight being bartered. At the edge of the market, a string of lamps stutters to life, drawing moths and the curious dead. I pause at a stall that hawks repurposed ocular implants. The owner gestures with a pair of tweezers, tiny lenses winking like metallic snow. You hunt, yes? He says, eyes tracking my posture more than my face, looking for the kind who pretend not to be found. I'm looking for someone who forgets to pretend, I say. He snorts, amused. A flick of the tweezers toward a gutter of light cutting under a sagging awning. Silver meets the coil girl there. 10 minutes. Coil girl. Slang for a black net hacker who carries her own uplink around her spine. I slide a credit wafer across the table. The owner bites it, theatrically, though the material's not edible. Everyone loves rituals. I cut through steam and noise, past a booth selling cloned succulents with neon veins, past a kid advertising custom dreams with a grin too old for his teeth. The alley the owner pointed to is a thin, tin-roofed artery, slick with rain, choked by crates. A rust-painted sign hangs crooked quiet zone, as if the market cares what signs say. He's already there. Jasper, silver, has his hood back, hair bright as a cut wire in the half-light. He's talking to a woman with a coiled cable tattoo running from ear to collarbone, her fingers fluttering over a wafer-slim console. Tools cling to her belt like silverfish. Jasper's posture is relaxed but alert, weight balanced on the balls of his feet, ready to run or smile, whichever is smarter. For a moment, I just watch. It's a bad habit, but he does something small and dangerous. When Coil Girl makes a joke, he laughs. Not performative, not cruel, just real. This district grinds that out of people. He's kept a piece of it. I step forward, and the market seems to inhale. Coil Girl sees me first. Her eyes flick to my empty neck, the space where a token should be then. To the calloused knuckles, the way I occupy a doorway like I own the exit. She folds the console shut, an instinctive inventory of risk. Jasper turns slow, deliberate, like he's granting me a reveal. Silver, I say. He smiles. Hunter. Coil Girl's voice is sandpaper. This your shadow, Silver? Something like that, he says. We take turns. What are you buying? I ask. Eyes on him, cataloging. No cuffs. New coat. Better cut. He's traded up, not down. Nothing I need a receipt for, he says. What are you selling? Regret, I say. Lightly used. Coil Girl rolls her eyes. You two want privacy or a referee? Because I charge double for blood. The market shifts behind me, music tilting sharper, conversations bending like grass in a wind. People can smell trouble. It sells too. Jasper tips his chin toward the deeper lanes. Walk with me, he says to me, and to Coil Girl. Hold the packet for 10 minutes. If I don't come back, burn it. She narrows her eyes. You're paying now. He peels a strip of coating from his wrist and presses it to her console. It lights like a small dawn. She whistles, impressed against her will. 10 minutes, she says, and melts into the crowd. We're alone and not alone. The way you are in a place where eyes are currency. Jasper drifts into the artery of stalls. I fall in beside him, too close for a tale, too far for a friend. We thread past a woman frying noodles in a pan older than the war. Past a man selling luck in paper packets, stamped with prayers to a sky no one remembers. He glances at my throat. Light wardrobe tonight. Fashion statement, I say. Brave, he says. Or stupid. Those often come as a set, I say. You took something of mine. He raises both brows. A bad habit? Because I wouldn't keep that. My token, I say. My voice stays even. My body does not. It's been humming since I saw him. Anger, yes, but braided with something I refuse to name. Oh, he says. Airy esteem. Did I? You know you did. And what will you do about that? Retrieve it. Like, you retrieved me? He flashes me a grin that shouldn't be legal in a district this tired. How'd that go? I move, without announcing it. He's ready anyway. We collide between a stall of cheap raincoats and a table stacked with plastic saints. The saints clatter, little miracles appalled by physics. Jasper ducks the first grab, slips under the second, pivots off my shoulder. He's faster in tight quarters. I'm heavier when it matters. I lever him into a sliver of shadow behind a hanging curtain of beaded wires. The market noise blurs to a heartbeat with bass. You're getting predictable, I murmur. Only to you, he says, breath cool against my cheek. Everyone else thinks I'm chaos. You are, I say. Just patterned. There's a flash of something in his eyes at that. Pleasure, maybe, at being seen as a system and not a storm. It rattles me. I grab for the front of his coat. He snakes free, snaps his head forward. Catching me high on the shoulder instead of the nose. Deliberate mercy. I answer with a palm to his ribs, the kind that says stop without saying hurt. He answers by laughing. It does something unpleasantly pleasant to my chest. A cluster of kids bursts past the beaded curtain, a ripple of giggles and smoke. The curtain sways around us, beads ticking over my knuckles. Jasper's back bumps the alley wall, his palms land on my forearms. Contact blooms like static. There are 1,000 things I should do in this position. The one I choose is not on any of my lists. He opens his mouth to say something infuriating. I kiss him. It happens fast, like flinching toward heat. It isn't soft. It isn't tender. It's a tactical mistake wrapped around a need that has my pulse on a leash. His lips are cut where I left them. I can taste a sting of metal and rain. For half a second he goes still, surprised, not scared. Then he laughs into my mouth, the sound sliding between our teeth. He breaks for air, eyes bright, lips wrecked and amused. You're insane. Takes one to know one, I hear myself say, low and rough. We stare at each other like we've just pulled a fire alarm and are waiting to see if the sprinklers work. The market breathes. Somewhere, oil hisses in a pan. The sky presses its metal face to the dome and listens. I needed you to stop talking, I say finally. You could have asked, he says, though he doesn't look offended. He looks delighted. But your method was, I admit, efficient. Token, I say, because drowning in a feeling is not my plan. Now, he tilts his head, considering. He could lie. He doesn't. Not here, he says. I don't carry it. Too obvious. But I can trade you a location. For what? For a promise, he says. And there's no joke in it now. Not to hand me back to the people who call me heritage. Not back to Laert, I say, tasting the name like sand. What about elsewhere? There is no elsewhere, he says softly. You know that. I do. The clans share more than blood. They share appetite. I step back half a breath. My hands don't want to move. They do anyway. Walk. We move again, deeper into guts where the market thins to wire and wet brick. Jasper's breathing is steady, save for a tiny hitch when our shoulders brush. Mine's not as even. I catalog it with professional disgust. You Stage the tower, I say. You let me deliver you. I let you think you did, he says. There's a difference. Why? Because you're good at getting into places I'm not, he says, eyes flicking to my empty throat. And because I needed a hunter to see me, not a clerk to process me. The words land in me like a key finding a lock it wasn't made for but fits anyway. It clicks something open, and I hate it a little. We reach a junction where the market spills into a service lane. Narrow. Slick. Lit by a single electric bulb that insists on flickering. He stops with his back to the wall, gaze on my face. Not my hands. Not my stance. Reading me for intent instead of angle. The token's stashed near the river, he says. Under the old turbine. But if you go alone, you'll trip every wire they left for me. You won't make it back. They... being? House Laert, he says, mouth pulling tight. And anyone who sells them favors. He is asking me to choose, and he's chosen a place where the light makes that choice look obvious. Help him and survive. Or don't, and don't. It's a neat trick. I'd admire it more if my heart weren't busy trying to slap sense into my ribs. You want a partnership, I say. I want to live, he says. And I want the dome to stop eating us to light rich hallways. His voice dips, almost a confession. And I want you to stop pretending you don't care which way the knife turns. The bulb buzzes, a tired wasp. The air smells like metal and meat, rain and something clean underneath, like the memory of a sky. He's right about too many things. I hate that too. Terms, I say. Help me reach the archive, he says. I'll return your token, and you can walk away from the clans with something. More valuable than a paycheck. The ability to look in a mirror. I glance at the beaded curtain behind us, the market beyond it, the quick trades and careful lies, the thousand small survivals. My reflection would laugh at me or it wouldn't. But in the glass of his eyes, I see a version of me I haven't met yet, one who stops running from answers. Deal, I say, and before the word can taste like surrender, he grins, fast and bright. Excellent, he says. Try not to kiss me in front of the turbine. It's conductive. Shut up, I say, and my body betrays me by wanting to do it the old-fashioned way. The river under the dome doesn't flow so much as negotiate. It shoves itself around pylons and rusted turbines, thick with silt, and lost promises, and the old tech bridge hums as if arguing back. You can't sleep here. The current crawls through the cables and sets your teeth on a low, nervous buzz. It's the kind of place where lies get tired. We sit with our boots hooked over a grated ledge, the water a dark ribbon under our knees. Sparks jump in the gaps where the insulation's long since given up. The city glows behind us. Markets closing, sirens far off, the dome's high song scraping the edge of hearing like a blade on glass. Jasper dangles his hands between his knees, palms open, wrists marked where my cuffs bit last night. He's shed the hood. The bridge light turns his hair into wire drawn through frost. Tell me why the archive, I say. And don't say because I asked nicely. He huffs a laugh. You did not kiss me that nicely. Focus. He leans back on his elbows, considering the river, or maybe the way it refuses to be beautiful. You know how the dome worked, back when the brochures still used the word future? Solar arrays, geothermal taps, kinetic harvesters. Green, clean, and very proud. I was busy not dying, I say. Then they discovered it could do more than shield, he says softly. It could feed. I flick him a look. On what? On us, he says, and the bridge hum seems to deepen, as if it approves of the cruelty of the truth. On volatility. The field amplifiers register certain hormonal signatures as energy spikes. Omega blood chems are generous that way. It started as rumor. It ended as protocol. You're saying the clans are plugging omegas into a light socket. I'm saying the dome's stability algorithm learned to prefer us the way people prefer sugar, he says. And the clans built a supply chain to keep the sky from falling on the rich. The air tastes like iron and old rain. You have proof. I stole it. He reaches inside his coat, brings out a wafer the size of a thumbnail, opaque, etched with hair-thin lines. He doesn't hand it to me. He puts it on the grate between us, like an offering that knows it can be stepped on. Kernel schematics, archive access map, Names. The hum of the bridge finds my bones and settles there. That's the kind of rock that doesn't just break windows, I say. It drops a floor. Good, he says simply, and the soft in his voice is not weakness. It's a place you go when you've run out of violent words. I thought I was going mad at first. My betrothal contract had a quiet clause, ceremonial presentation at the dawn chamber. I asked what that meant. They told me not to worry. So I worried. How'd you get the file? He smiles, not proud, not coy, satisfied. I learned to be the heir they wanted, listened, stole keys made of manners. People who own worlds forget to lock their faces. And their terminals. Heritage, I say, tasting the clerk's voice again. Dangerous piece of heritage. When they called you that, you didn't flinch. I did, he says, surprising me. On the inside. Then I learned that a steady chin buys you time. A gust rattles the bridge decking. My hand wants to reach the wafer. My other hand wants to keep it right, where it is until I know how much of my life it's about to set on fire. I compromise by staring at him instead. You want me to help you get into the archive, I say. We do a little impossible burglary at the heart of a government made out of hungry traditions. We, he echoes, tasting the word like tea. He gestures to my throat, empty. In return, I give you your token back. And something more stubborn. What's that? A way to live with yourself, he says. And it's not an accusation. It lands like a hand pressing a bruise you already knew about. You're good at cutting knots. I'm good at reading the rope. We don't have to like what that makes us. We just have to use it. Who says I don't like what it makes me? I say. He tilts his head, eyes bright. You smell like someone who puts his monsters on a leash and walks them at night. I snort, despite the hackles that sentence wakes. Romantic, efficient, he says. And honest. The river snarls around a concrete tooth. A shuttle drones high overhead. A wasp, trapped in glass. My token is somewhere near the turbine, according to him. Bait hanging on a hook made of fine wire and clan malice. He'd be right about the traps. The Laerts love a clean circle. Why do you trust me? I ask. Because if I don't ask, I'm already doomed to believe him. He turns his face toward mine. The bridge light makes the pale in his eyes gather like weather. I don't, he says. And the answer is immediate and gentle. You just make dying sound fun. I bark a laugh that tastes like rust. That is a miserable metric. Silver. You gave me the courtesy of not breaking my skull when you could, he says. You kissed me when you shouldn't. And you delivered me and looked like you'd accidentally shot the moon on the way out. I'm gambling on that, man. And what do I get, I ask, besides a conductivity warning and a lecture about my monsters? Your life back. But one you pick, not one printed on a clan receipt, he says. Also, the entertaining possibility of taking down a system designed to outlive our bones. Entertaining, I say. That, what we call it now? I find revolution benefits from humor, he says, mouth tilting. Otherwise, the speeches get heavy. We sit in the buzz. I let my breath count the seconds. My work has always been simple: track, take, trade. Add nothing of myself to the equation but skill and teeth. The math has kept me alive. Lately, the math has started misbehaving. All right, I say, the word slotting into the night like it was waiting for its cue. We're partners until the archive. After that, we see if the world's still standing. After that, he says, we'll decide if we want to keep each other alive on purpose. Don't get sentimental. Gods forbid, he says, solemn as a prayer. We go over the plan. Jasper speaks in maps. I answer in angles. The archive vault is nested under a museum that tells the story of how the dome saved us from weather like we weren't born inside storms. There's a maintenance shaft off the river. Gated sensor grid, pressure alarms keyed to density changes. He shows me a list of guard rotations in a font that should never touch blood. I offer the routes I've used when I needed to disappear so hard even my regrets couldn't follow. He points to the wafer. We need to get this to the kernel slot 3 levels down. After that, the system will query for handshakes from the founding families. And if we don't have the right hands, we'll borrow them, he says, dry as winter. From who? From people who won't miss them for long, he says. Then adds, seeing my face pull tight. Not literally their hands, Sin. Clarify those things sooner. Noted. Our shoulders end up close as we compare notes. The hum of the bridge crawls through us both. Sometimes our knees bump. Sometimes his breath feathers my throat when he leans to point. It's astonishing. The way an inch becomes a conversation. When we finish, he tucks the wafer away and blows out a breath he didn't admit he was holding. The dome's song seems fractionally higher, like it's climbed a rung toward dawn it doesn't deserve. You know this is the worst idea either of us has had, I say. Disagree, he says. I once tried to cut my own hair before a clan gala. Truly harrowing. There are photos. Burn them. He grins at the river. It feels like opening a window in a sealed car. I realize, with a start that makes me a little angry, that I missed this lightness without knowing I was allowed to. Come on, I say, standing. We get your packet to the archive, dodge the families, steal a handshake, break a sky. Easy night. First, he says, and from somewhere inside the lining of his coat, he draws a small object wrapped in oilcloth. He drops it into my palm. Weight, familiar as the shape of a scar. My token. I don't let my fingers clench too fast. Dignity is a language I speak when the world watches. You said, I start. I said, I'd give it back if you helped me reach the archive, he says. I am not a contract. I am a person. People make gestures before they ask favors, not after. I turn the black ring over. The glyph gleams, scratched but intact. Something eases inside my ribs, and something else tightens to fill the space. Responsibility, maybe, or a better kind of fear. You really are going to be the death of me, I say. I'm trying very hard to be the opposite, he says lightly. And the opposite sounds suspiciously like life. We start across the bridge, boots ringing the metal, the river heckling us with its endless argument. The city throws its lights like coins we'll never touch. I slide the token back onto its chain and feel it settle against my sternum. A circle closing. Not the old one. A new one. The tunnels under Sector 7 sweat. The walls bead with mineral tears. The floor keeps secrets every time your boot sinks into black water. Bioluminescent moss slicks the concrete like spilled constellations. Blue-green and stubborn, lighting up under our steps. The light makes Jasper's hair look like a filament wound too tight. We move single file where the ceiling slumps, shoulder to damp pipe. Breath visible in the cold. Every 100 feet something clicks, old relays deciding whether to remember their jobs. Far above, the dome hums. You can feel it down here, not with your ears but with your sternum. The resonance passes through bone, a tuning fork tuned to captivity. Left, Jasper says softly, not looking back. His voice hits the tunnel and comes back smaller. He knows the map the way I know the smell of a lie. Left smells like regret, I say. That's the right smell. He smiles over his shoulder. Regret keeps you from missing the alarms. He isn't wrong. We take the left. The tunnel narrows, buckles, then opens into a chamber full of sleeping machines. Fans red with rust. Winches furred with rot. A rail cart tipped on its side like a beetle that lost the argument. Moss glows in their ribs. Fungus paints delicate frostwork on their bolts. The place looks like someone put a factory to bed and forgot to wake it for 20 years. Listen, Jasper says. I do. Not to the obvious, water drip, cable creak, far-off rumble, but to the other thing, the pressure wave you mistake for nerves until it persists. The dome again. Its pitch is higher than it was on the bridge. Feels closer, I say. It is. He steps around a coil of line, so neatly that I know he's walked this exact path in his head a dozen times. The dome learns the shape of us. Blood patterns, thermal signatures. It reads pulses like a schoolbook. Emotions, too. Volatility pays a dividend. You keep saying that like you practiced it on a panel, I say. You do a lot of speeches the night before you run? I did one, he says, to the mirror. It said I sounded earnest. I threatened to break it. We duck under a beam and drop to a lower catwalk. Moss brushes my knuckles. Cold and wet, it flashes brighter under the heat of my skin. Jasper pauses where the rail splits, points. Pressure plates on the right. See the scallop in the dust? Step left when you pass the junction. Who taught you traps? I ask. People who thought I was decorative, he says. And there it is again. That quiet, amused cruelty he's learned to carry like a knife with no handle. Decorations, learned things. Like how to steal a hunter's token. He glances back, unabashed. Exactly like that, we walk. The dome's hum keeps pressing. It feels like a hand that doesn't know whether to bless or bruise. After a while, my head starts to throb in time with it. Jasper hears the change in my pace without looking. It gets worse the closer you are to the kernel lines, he says. That means we're on the right route. Define right, I say. I prefer routes that don't snap my spine from the inside. You think freedom means running away, he says. And the words are so calm they slide deeper than they should. But it's about choosing what chains you keep. I stop. The dome doesn't. You rehearse that one too? No. He finally turns. The glow makes his eyes alien, wide coins minted in blue. I rehearse the part where I pretend not to mean it. We stand like that, rain ghosts in a throat of concrete, and it doesn't feel like a tunnel. Anymore. But an exam I didn't study for because I didn't know there'd be questions. I've believed in leaving for a long time, not in arriving. He's offering a different verb. What chains would you keep? I ask, because it's easier to make him bleed first. Ones I pick, he says. Ones that tell me who I am without asking me to be less. His mouth quirks. Also, the one that keeps your worst jokes to a minimum. Cruel, I say. Efficient, he echoes, and the echo makes me want to kiss him or shake him or both. I do neither. My palms itch. The dome hum raises half a note, like it's eavesdropping and pleased. We break the stare and keep moving. The chamber narrows again, becomes a throat. A sign hangs smashed against a railing, authorized personnel only. Beyond it, a terminal sleeps in a niche, an oblong of screen with a keyboard designed by someone who hates fingers. A thin skein of moss makes it look almost gentle. Jasper kneels. This one's older than my lies, he says. But it still knows the door I need. He unrolls a patchwork toolkit. The tools don't match. Some are luxury, some are scavenged, all are clean. He cracks the terminal housing with patient care, unfurls a cable, jacks in. The screen coughs text in a pale font, then resolves to a login prompt that forgot what hope looks like. He works. His face goes flat the way it does when he's letting the part of his brain with sharp edges run the show. I watch the shadow of lashes on his cheek, the pinch between his brows when something pings off expected. The tunnel hums. The moss breathes, or pretends to. Beyond the rails, a black cut of water waits for a story. Talk to me, I say, just to keep the pressure from building. He doesn't glance up. About what? What you'll do if we live. Eat something that wasn't grown under a lamp, he says immediately. Sleep where rain isn't a metaphor. Learn the names of clouds. Ambitious, I say. And you? His fingers pause over the keys. A fraction. If we live. Stop hunting people for rooms with better locks, I say. Find work where the currency isn't fear. It feels like confessing to a priest made of rivets. Was that hard to say? He asks. Gentle without pity. Yes, I say. Then it was worth saying. The screen flashes. He exhales, thin and precise. Colonel Ping routed. I've got a handshake stub. When we hit the archive, this will get us past the first door, and into the place where doors stop pretending to be doors. And start being what? Opinions, he says. Of very old, very rich men. He reaches to the side, blind, for the cable that slipped under a ridge of rust. My hand moves at the same time. Our fingers touch over the slick rubber sheath. Static jumps from him to me, no warning, no countdown. Just a clean, bright sting like biting into winter air. It shoots up my arm across my chest. I feel it burn along the chain of my token and wring the bone under my scar. I flinch and don't. He does, and tries not to. Our eyes meet over the stupid piece of cable like the cable said something funny, and both of us want to laugh, but neither of us is willing to be first. We don't move for a breath. 2. His lips part. Mine do not. I let go of the cable very carefully, as if it were a living thing that might bolt. He swallows. The sound is small and indecent in the tunnel's throat. Conductive, he says, too lightly. Dangerous, I say, too low. We both look back at the screen as if it could save us from whatever that was. It can't. It blinks its indifferent cursor and waits for the next command. 2 more junctions, Jasper says at last, voice newly threadbare. Then the service shaft to the museum foundation. We'll rest before the climb. Define rest, I say. Not dying for an hour. Put it on a brochure. We move again. Quieter. The tunnel bends like an apology and widens into a maintenance bay where a row of cots rots in tidy formation. Someone once thought people might sleep here as part of their job. The moss has gentled the edges. The air smells like old rubber and river breath. We barricade the door with a grate and a length of pipe more out of habit than hope. Jasper does inventory, murmuring to his pockets. I sit, back against the wall, pulse finally coming down to something that isn't trying to punch out of me. He tosses me a protein wafer. It tastes like paper taught to envy bread. The dome hum smooths for a moment, like a mother tiring of the lullaby. Lights? I ask. They go off on their own, he says, and slides down the opposite wall, knees up, arms draped over them. He tips his head back, exposing the broken ring tattoo at his throat. But you can pretend I planned it. Always. Silence fills in, slow as water. The tunnel clicks and settles around our heat. The moss near our boots goes brighter, faint auroras curled at the edges. I can hear his breathing. It's the right pace. That shouldn't matter as much as it does. You're thinking too loud, he says without opening his eyes. Your fault, I say. You blame well, he murmurs, smiling now. Sleep. I'll wake you at half. You sleep, I say. I'm wired wrong. I'll listen. To what? Whatever the dome says when it's not lying. He shifts, getting comfortable in a place where comfort is a rumor, and after a while he does sleep. The kind that comes in slices and leaves teeth marks. His mouth softens. The lines near his eyes ease. He looks young, not air young or hunted young. Human young. I don't sleep. I count the length of the room in breaths. I count the time between the dome's pulses. I count the number of ways I could lose him tomorrow and the day after. That, and the number gets too big to fit inside a hunter's math. Freedom used to be an exit to me. A door cracked just wide enough to slip through before anyone could ask for the bill. But sitting under a city that drinks us and still pretends to be thirsty, listening to his breathing etch itself into the part of my mind that remembers the safe routes. Freedom sounds like a choice I don't take alone. I look at his hands. They're cut and careful. I look at the cable burn pinking my skin where we touched. It feels like a mark and not like a wound. Selecting chains, I murmur to the dumb, patient dark. Who taught you that trick, Jasper? The dome answers by not answering. The hum goes on. The moss glows its small, brave glow. When my eyes finally close, they do it with the stubbornness of a man surrendering to weather. I sleep sitting up, knife close, token cold against my sternum. If I dream, it's of a sky that isn't a ceiling and a hand reaching for a cable, at the same time as mine, and the shock that says alive louder than any alarm. The archive sits under a museum that worships the dome like a god with better PR. Upstairs, curated history, glass cases, plaques that say we survived in fonts that cost more than most lives. Down here, the cartilage that keeps the lie from collapsing, glass conduits, veined with light, cables sheathing the load-bearing nerves of the city. The room breathes. If the tunnels hummed, this place pulses. Cold white spills from the ceiling in surgical sheets. Floors polished to a mirror. My face looks like a man I wouldn't hire. The air is copper clean, sterile enough to make your sins feel smudged. We slip through a maintenance hatch Jasper bullied with code and luck, then cross a service balcony to see the thing itself. A vertical column of living glass braided with wet wire, threaded into the kernel slot like a spine plugging into a skull. That's the mouth, Jasper murmurs, eyes too bright. It eats commands and excretes law. Poetic, I say. Let's feed it something it chokes on. He smiles quick, a spark in frost, and we move. I watch the arcs of his hands as he lays out his kit. The stolen wafer, a pair of fiber patches, an induction clip shaped like a question mark. The column's glow licks his knuckles pale. He looks very young and very old at once. He looks like choice. We pass 3 security nodes without breathing wrong. Jasper spoofs the first with a laughably polite handshake. I disable the second where the housing is cracked, prying it open with a blade and a prayer to entropy. The third is a camera that's pretend asleep. I give it a new dream with a magnet and a nudge. We step onto the primary platform. The dome's pulse grows loud enough to count. My chest matches it without asking permission. Timing, Jasper says, glancing at his wrist list. Once I seed the kernel, we get a 7-minute grace before the watchdogs wake. Plenty, I say. Meaning, not enough. Meaning, run if I tell you. He kneels at the slot. The wafer shines like a tiny knight. He slides it home. The room inhales. Text waterfalls down a display we didn't turn on. Lines of permissions, vetoes pretending to be safeguards. The architectural arrogance of men who feared weather and invented a worse storm. Jasper's fingers dance. Tap, patch, confirm. The living glass goes from glacier blue to a color like dawn seen through a bruise. Talk to me, I say. Where are we? In the part of the brain that believes itself immortal, he says. Teeth showing. Almost there. Something clicks. Not a machine. A decision. Sin, he says, very softly. I turn. The balcony we crossed on the way in has grown people, white gloves, ceramic armor, faces that smile like paperwork. House layered in hunting clothes. I count 6. No, 8. 2 more in the shadow of a support strut. The kind who don't blink. Front and center. The clerk from the tower, posture still expensive, voice still dry. You did good work, Hunter. Twice. He doesn't look at Jasper. Heritage doesn't get greeted. My hand drifts toward my sidearm and finds nothing. Security took metal at the hatch. I have a blade in my boot and a length of bad ideas in my head. Walk away, the clerk says, almost kindly. We only want the asset. Your record can remain untarnished. In my periphery, Jasper goes very still. Not scared. Focused. The column ticks messages to itself. Untarnished, I repeat, and my voice doesn't wobble. That what you call it when you plug kids into a nightlight? The clerk's eyes flicker, fast as a shutter. So, he knows what we know. The city requires stability, he says. You of all people should appreciate a contract. Jasper's gaze needles my shoulder. I don't look at him. I watch the space between the clerk's hands. He hasn't raised them. He isn't worried. You get 7 men, I say. And a speech. I get this. I put my foot behind Jasper, the weight of me spelling stay, and step forward as if I believe in miracles. I don't. I believe in timing. The first 2 come fast. Batons, not guns. Good. Guns would shatter the glass and Laird likes their gods intact. I meet the left with a wrist catch, pop the elbow, send his baton skittering. The right thinks I'll repeat the trick. I don't. I take the baton to meet and answer with a headbutt that makes the room flash white. Behind me, Jasper's breath tightens. The column replies in light. 4 more fan out. 3 hold. 1 tries to flank. I pivot. Draw them into a line that keeps the clerk out of his own crossfire. No bullets. Electricity and bone. I weave and do not think about the chain around my throat, cold against my sternum. I think about the sound Jasper makes when code fights back. A baton kisses my ribs with a crackle that makes my teeth sing. Pain lifts the edges of the world. I push into it. The 3rd man goes down with a knee to the kidney. The 4th learns his visor was never designed to meet a boot. My vision narrows. The dome's pulse booms like a storm swallowing itself. Sin, Jasper says again, like a rope thrown out. 2 minutes. Make 'em count. The clerk finally lifts a hand. The 2 in the shadows move. Professionals. Their weight is quiet. Their aim indifferent. One carries a short gun that makes a sad little PFF when it fires. The world becomes a red rope pulled through my side. It's not a slug. It's a needle that flowers open, filament petals deploying inside flesh. Shock blooms from the inside out, clean and monstrous. My body folds without my permission. The floor is very close, and the light is very far. I hear myself make a sound I hope no one knows is mine. The gun whines, rearming. The second Shadow Man advances, calm, visor reflecting me as a problem already solved. The clerk says, faintly disappointed, should have walked. I try to get up. The math says no. Imagine a tree trying to stand up after lightning introduced itself. That's me. The baton I knocked away earlier rolls back into my palm, like an apology for not being a miracle. Glass sings, not music. Strain. Jasper stands. He's got blood on his mouth and I did not put it there. He doesn't look at the guards. He looks at the column, at the living glass that believes it owns the weather. House Layert, he says, and his voice is something I've never heard from him. Not gentle, not amused. Royal, stripped of its jewelry. If you want heritage, watch. He slams the induction clip home. Light detonates. The column convulses. The braids of wire seize, then melt into a single terrible idea. The room goes knife white, noise like a storm deciding to live indoors. Text scrawls and dies. Somewhere, far above. The dome takes a breath it can't finish. Cracks race outward in the living glass, spider silk at first, then veins fat with light. The floor trembles. The clerk's composure finally cracks with his windows. He barks something that sounds like containment. The professionals pivot toward Jasper. I move. Pain is a country. I sprint through it like I know the shortcuts. The baton in my hand becomes a line between outcomes. I take the shooter low. Feel something give the way old wood gives. He goes sideways. His weapon spits one last PFF into the ceiling. The other man swings. He is very good. I am bleeding too much, and still better. We bounce off a console, trade ugly truths. He expects me to protect my right side. I let it burn and ruin his knee. The room is snowing light. The column screams. The ceiling, no, not the ceiling. The dome answers. A sound like an egg cracking in a god's fist. Jasper, I don't have more words. Maybe I never did. I've got you, he says. Which is an answer to something I didn't ask aloud. He's at my shoulder, smaller than the disaster but made of a fiercer intent. His hand finds my belt, my arm finds his waist. The platform bucks. A cable whips past like a live snake, opening a man from shoulder to promise. The clerk is on his knees, clutching his tablet like scripture. The guards aren't guarding anything anymore. Emergency egress, Jasper pants. South balcony. There's a service chute. We run. The room tries to be a maze and fails. My body remembers straight lines even when blood redraws the map. We clear the balcony as a slab of light like frozen lightning drops where we stood. Past a failing security pane, down a ladder that forgot its rungs, through a door that was never meant for courage. And then the sound changes. The scream lifts, becomes bigger than rooms and men and money. It becomes weather. We spill into an upper gallery, the museum's bones showing under the good suit. Glass exhibits explode into glitter. A statue of the first day under the dome loses its head and looks better for it. Wind punches the corridor. Wind. Real. Mean. Unscripted. The dome is splitting overhead, a crack sawing across its belly like an idea the city can't contain. For the first time in 23 years, if you believe the plaques, something else looks back. Look, Jasper says, dragging me toward a window hacked to nonsense by the quake. He braces me in a frame blown out to teeth, one arm cinched tight around my ribs. Sin, look. I do. Through the rupture, the sky isn't a ceiling. It's a black field with a coin dropped into it. The moon is wrong and right. Too bright, as if it's been hoarding all its light out there and now throws it like forgiveness. The dome's edges glitter like broken glass in a spilled drink. The air has a taste I don't have a word for. It isn't filtered. It isn't paid for. It is simply cold. Something in my chest that I thought was a scar becomes a door and opens. The museum sheds a wall. An alarm chews on the night until it chokes. People are shouting in the street, not the curated fear of drills, but the raw sound of someone seeing a god without makeup. A child laughs. A man cries like it costs too much and he pays anyway. My knees fail. Jasper takes the fall with me, swearing under his breath, the kind of elegant profanity you save for holy moments. The wound in my side is a furnace. His shoulder under my hand is the only geography I can trust. Go, I rasp, because habit has deeper roots than hope. You can make it with a head start. He grips my cheek, hauls my face toward his. His eyes are silver coins minted on the spot. Shut up, he says. And it's the kind of tenderness that doesn't ask permission. I'm not a contract. I don't get reassigned at the first sign of weather. Jasper, freedom isn't about running, he says, like a vow he found under his tongue. It's about who you choose to stop for. He chooses me. He gets my arm over his shoulders, my weight around him, and we stagger as the museum becomes a rain of artifacts and lies. Every step is a prayer with bad knees. The exit sign flickers, does its little green man routine, and finally earns its keep. Jasper curses it anyway and aims us for a service door that lost the argument with a tremor. Outside is not outside yet. The dome still hangs in pieces above the avenues, shedding light in shivers. But the crack is real, and the night that pours through it is not a story. Sirens tilt and die. The clerk's voice is gone. The Laerts will write memos for a century that cannot explain this moment. Jasper drags. I stagger. Together we invent a new verb. The wind knifes my wound and steals my breath and gives it back cleaner. The city looks up and remembers how to do the same. We hit street. Debris turns our feet into liars. The world tilts. I do too. Jasper yanks me under a half-collapsed awning as a shower of glass anatomy textbooks teaches a car about anatomy. He props me against brick, palms my face to keep me awake. You with me? He demands. Unfortunately, I say, and it comes out a laugh that hurts. Good, he says, and he's laughing too, wild and alive and appalled. He presses his forehead to mine for the length of one breath, his, mine, ours, then pulls back. We go north. There's a service tram, old line. If the dome keeps breaking clean, there will be a way through the perimeter within the hour. I look at the sky again. The moon hangs there like a witness. I thought you said we had 7 minutes. He grins. Feral. I lied. Teach me, I say. I am, he says, with that royal tone that makes commands sound like promises. He hooks his shoulder under my arm and we move, a two-person animal made of bad decisions. And better intentions, the city's broken light making a road where there wasn't one. Somewhere behind us, under us, the archive keeps dying. Somewhere ahead, the north keeps being north. We don't run. We stop for each other, and that is how we go. Snow makes no sound until you try to remember it later. Then it whispers. The air outside the dome tastes like nothing I've ever breathed. Thin, sharp, alive. It cuts and heals in the same breath. The ruins of the southern perimeter smolder far behind us. Every gust that bends the frozen grass brings a faint crackle of collapsing glass. We made it. Somehow. Jasper and I set up a camp beside what used to be a highway sign, half buried in drift. The letters are gone, scoured to bone by weather, but it feels good to sit against something that doesn't hum. The sky overhead is unfiltered, ink black, wide, full of stars that look indecently real. The moon is huge tonight. Silver spilled from a wound. Jasper coaxes a fire from twigs and stolen fuel tablets, breath fogging as he works. Sparks dance off his gloves and vanish into the dark. He's humming under his breath, some tune I recognize from the record player in the observatory. It makes me think of beginnings pretending to be endings. When the flames take, he flops down beside me with a grunt. You owe me a drink, he says, passing the flask. I owe you a hospital. I'll take the drink. Hospitals ask too many questions. He's not wrong. My side's bandaged with half our med tape and most of his scarf. The pain's quieter now. The kind that hums in the background like an old song you used to hate. We drink in turns. The liquor's harsh and beautiful, Like everything that survived out here, it burns its way down, settles as warmth. The silence after is wide enough to fit both our ghosts. Congratulations, Jasper says eventually, leaning back on his elbows. We're both officially stateless. Wanted. Possibly legends. Legends don't limp, I say. He grins, teeth catching moonlight. Then we'll start a new genre. Tragic legends with orthopedic issues. That makes me laugh. Really laugh. It cracks something open in my chest that the wound didn't touch. The sound feels wrong in the best way. Raw, unsupervised. Jasper watches me like he's cataloging proof of life. First time I've heard you do that, he says softly. Don't get used to it. Oh, I intend to. I'm very stubborn. The fire snaps, sending embers up to flirt with the stars. Beyond the ridge, the dome's corpse gleams faintly. A jagged horizon of glass teeth. I wonder what's happening back there. Chaos, fear, maybe hope wearing the wrong coat. The clans will try to rebuild, but something in them cracked deeper than glass. People saw the sky. That's a contagion you can't quarantine. You ever think about going back? Jasper asks after a while. No, I say. Then, quieter. Maybe to see if it's still standing. But not to stay. Good. He stirs the fire with a stick. Sparks jumping like punctuation. We just end up breaking it again. I glance at him. The wind keeps pushing strands of his hair into his eyes, and he doesn't bother to move them. There's color in his cheeks from the cold, and the tattoo on his neck looks softer in the moonlight, less like defiance and more like a promise. You could have left me, I say. It's not a question. He shrugs. So could you. But you didn't. Bad habit, I mutter. Best one you've got. We sit in silence for a while, the kind that doesn't demand to be filled. The wind scours the plain, singing through the broken metal of the old sign. Snowflakes catch the firelight and drift like slow ash. After a while, Jasper says, You think we saved anyone? I think we broke something that needed breaking, I say. That counts. Not enough? It never is. He nods, eyes on the fire. Still. For one night, we won. I watch the moon edge higher, pale and endless. For one night, I agree. He pulls his coat tighter, scoots close enough that our shoulders touch. The contact is small but real, the kind that steadies your pulse without asking permission. I used to dream about the sky, Jasper says, voice almost lost to the wind. But it was never this big, never this quiet. Quiet's overrated. You think so? Too much quiet means you're dead, I say. But this... I nod toward the horizon where wind meets starlight. This is breathing. He smiles at that. Poetic. Who taught you that? You did, I admit. By accident. Lucky accident. We share the flask again until it's empty. The fire burns low, fed by the last of the sticks. Our shadows stretch long over the snow, almost touching the edge of the ridge. I wonder if the dome looks different from up there, maybe like a wound healing from the inside out. When the flames finally gutter, the cold settles its hand on us, firm but not unkind. The wind carries the smell of pine from somewhere far north. It smells like possibility. Jasper tucks the flask into his coat, then looks at me with that infuriating, wonderful grin. So what now, Hunter? I look up at the sky where the moon watches like a witness who finally approves. Now. We breathe. He laughs quietly. The sound a small spark against the vast dark. Just that? For now. He leans back against me, head resting against my shoulder, and we watch the stars rearrange themselves into something less foreign. The air feels new every time it hits my lungs, as if the world's been waiting for us to remember how to use it. Behind us, the dome fades into silence. Ahead, the north wind calls our names like it's been practicing. The world isn't fixed. The city isn't free. But the sky is open, and the moon is real. And for the first time in too many years, I don't need anything else. Only this. Only him. Only us.